you can, inshallah. Try to attend, if you're able to attend the entire halaqah, entire Qiyamul Layl. Otherwise, whatever you can do, inshallah. But it's very nice. It's long, of course, but it's very nice. If you cannot stand, you can also sit down on the ground. Okay? You can sit down on the ground and pray. Yes, you will get half reward, but it's still better than nothing, yes? Half is still better than nothing. So you can sit down on the ground and pray. If you're elderly, if you have an actual udhr, then you can sit down on the ground without excuse and you'll get full reward, inshallah. But if you're, like me, if you're, for example, if you're lazy and you sit down on the ground, then you'll get half reward, inshallah. So, but it's still better than nothing, right? Still, you can multiply by 70, you can multiply using the miswak also. You'll get a lot of rewards, inshallah. You'll get a lot of rewards, inshallah. Half of that, right? Half of it. So if you do full standing, you'll get the full reward. If you do sitting, you'll get half the reward. But still a lot of reward, inshallah. That's still a lot. Like half a billion is still like 500 million, right? So just thinking along those lines. I'm not saying it'll be more than a billion, inshallah. But I'm just giving random numbers. But inshallah, please. Also, there was this one person who was requesting me about this. There's some people who are working. There's this policy called 80-40. I don't know if you've heard of this policy in Loudoun County. The 80-40 policy, which allows boys to go into the girls' bathrooms and girls to go. It's a obviously disgusting policy. There are some brothers, mashallah, who are working to repel and to revoke this policy. Right? So if you are interested in working with them, this is to make sure that boys don't go into the girls' bathroom. This is how low we are. This is where we are in society, that we have to tell boys not to go into the girls' bathroom. Now it's like law, you should allow them. So we're trying, those who are working, if you want to be connected with them, inshallah, you can contact me. I'll send you the brother's number, inshallah. His name is Umair Bud, mashallah. Anyways, so we begin, inshallah, very quickly, inshallah. Today we'll be doing the last quarter of the 18th and the full 19th juz, inshallah. Moving very quickly, Surah Al-Furqan, the first page of the 19th juz, Allah Ta'ala discusses the story of Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt and Ubay ibn Khalaf. And Allah Ta'ala speaks about how Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt, he was a person who was unfortunately misled by his friend, Ubay ibn Khalaf. So Ubay ibn Khalaf was a bad friend. And so, and it's a lengthy story, but essentially what happened was that Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt, he invited the Prophet ﷺ to eat some food. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, I will not eat your food until you accept Islam. And so Uqbah said, fine. And then he said the kalim, he said the shahada. And so then Nabi ﷺ ate with him. And so later on, when Ubay ibn Khalaf, when he heard about this, he went to Uqbah and he said, I heard you left the religion, I heard you left our religion and went to their religion. And so Uqbah said, no, I just said it just to make him happy. And so Ubay said, listen, I will not be happy with you until you go and you do something disgusting to the Prophet ﷺ. So then this Uqbah, he goes and he spits on the Mubarak face of the Prophet ﷺ. And of course, he leaves Islam or whatever happened, and he was killed later on in Badr, in the Battle of Badr, of course. But at that time, we understand that Ubay ibn Khalaf, he was a negative influence on Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt. Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt, he was inclined towards Islam, and because of his friend, unfortunately, he was misled, and he unfortunately, died as a kafir. Right? And so therefore, we should be very careful. As Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalili, falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil." He says that a person follows the religion of their friends. Very important. A person follows the religion of their friends. So you should be very careful who you select as your friends. And so this is very important, that we select good friends. Now, sometimes we say this to kids. We say, make sure you have good friends, good company. But the fact remains that as adults also, we must also have good company. We must also have good friends. Again, inshallah, those who are talking, inshallah, maintain silence. Alright, so as we grow older as well, it doesn't mean that, don't think that you are above influence. Believe me, you can still be influenced by bad friends. If you have bad friends, sometimes people say, oh, you know what? I bought this house, for example, like this. I did this and I did this. And then they talk about different how they make money, for example, sometimes haram money, for example. But we have to always remember that as Muslims, we have to do things in the correct manner, in the halal manner. And so therefore, make sure that you are not misled by your friends. Anyways, moving on, the end of Surah Al-Furqan, Allah Ta'ala mentions the story of, or Allah mentions the characteristics of the Ibad al-Rahman. He speaks about those servants of Allah Ta'ala who are the chosen, the selected servants of Ar-Rahman. So Allah Ta'ala speaks about some of their characteristics. Allah speaks about their akhlaq. Allah speaks about some details regarding them. It's all of these characteristics you and I we should try to bring into our lives. All of the characteristics of the Ibad al-Rahman we should try to bring into our lives. Go study them. The last ruku of Surah Al-Furqan, go read the characteristics of the Ibad al-Rahman, and we should try to implement them in our lives, inshallah. Moving on, Surah Al-Shu'ara, Allah Ta'ala speaks about different prophets. Allah mentions the stories of different prophets. In Surah Al-Shu'ara, in the beginning, Allah Ta'ala speaks about the story of Musa alayhi salam. Again, Allah Ta'ala speaks about the story of Musa alayhi salam. And he speaks about how Allah Ta'ala sent Musa alayhi salam to go speak to Fir'aun. And so Musa alayhi salam goes and speaks to Fir'aun, and he discusses and so on and so forth. And of course, we mentioned this story multiple places in the Quran. But there's one funny, I find it very funny, this one incident, how it's quoted here in this part of the Quran. So Fir'aun says, listen, we raised you. So Fir'aun is saying, قال ألم نربك فينا وليدا ولبثت فينا من عمرك سنين. So Fir'aun is saying that, listen, did we not raise you amongst us? Again, inshallah, please maintain silence. We're talking Quran and Sunnah. We're not talking about my life. Right, so please pay attention. Anyway, so Fir'aun says that, listen, did we not raise you amongst us as a child, and you stayed with us for many years? Right? So then Musa responds, he says, yes. Oh, and then Fir'aun also says, you did whatever you did, you killed someone, right? You killed one of the policemen. And then Musa responds, and he said, yes, whatever happened, it was not correct. And I ran away because I feared you. Right? And then he responds to this claim of Fir'aun, that Fir'aun said, we raised you. So, funny, he said, I found it very funny. He said, وَتِلْكَ نِعْمَةٌ تَمُنُّهَا عَلَيَّ أَنْ عَبَّدْتَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. He says, Musa is saying to Fir'aun that, which favor was it that you favored on us, that you enslaved Bani Israel? Meaning like, you did a great job, you enslaved Bani Israel, and so that's why I was forced to stay with you, because you were killing the kids of Bani Israel. And so that's why I was forced to stay with you, right? But this is so funny, I find it like a rhetorical sentence from Musa alayhi salam. They're saying what favor did you do on us that you enslaved Bani Israel? And because you enslaved Bani Israel, now this is the situation. I was forced to stay with you. You were killing children, and so therefore I was forced to stay with you, and so on and so forth. And we know the story of Musa alayhi salam is such a powerful story, and so much for us to learn from that story as well. Then Allah Ta'ala speaks about the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Such a beautiful story here as well, where Ibrahim alayhi salam describes Allah. He says, الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينِ. Allah Ta'ala is that being who created me, and then He guides me. وَالَّذِي هُوَ يُطْعِمُنِي وَيَسْقِينِ. Allah Ta'ala feeds me and He gives me drink. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. When I become sick, Allah Ta'ala cures me. Again, we don't attribute negative things to Allah Ta'ala. You see, it's such a beautiful play with the words. Right? Ibrahim alayhi is saying, when I get sick, then Allah cures me. Although Allah is the giver of sickness and cure, of course, we know this. But He attributes sickness to Himself. He says, when I get sick, Allah Ta'ala is the one that cures me. Such an amazing way to describe Allah. It's the same thing, we although yes, sometimes our parents or our teachers, for example, they make mistakes. Or the imams, for example, or the leaders of society, they make mistakes. We're all human beings. Everyone is a human. So they all make mistakes. But you shouldn't harper over that mistake. You should not bring up your parents' mistakes. You should not bring up your teachers' mistakes. You should not bring up the imams and the ulama, their mistakes. Why? Because this is, that's between them and Allah Ta'ala. That's between them and Allah Ta'ala. You leave it to Allah Ta'ala to judge them. So anyway, وَالَّذِي يُمِيتُنِي ثُمَّ يُحْيِينِ. Allah Ta'ala, He gives me death and then He revives me. وَالَّذِي أَطْمَعُ أَن يَغْفِرَ لِي خَطِيئَتِي يَوْمَ الدِّينِ. Allah Ta'ala, I hope that Allah will forgive my sins on the day of resurrection, and so on and so forth. Then the story of Nuh alayhi salam, the story of Hud alayhi salam, the story of Salih alayhi salam, the story of Lut alayhi salam. Also very important, the story of Lut alayhi salam. We know the situation that's happening now and everything that's happening. It's very important that we ourselves learn the story of Lut alayhi salam and we teach our kids the story of Lut alayhi salam. This is very important. Our kids, they should hear it from us first. They should know what is right and wrong from us. Right? Don't think that your child, my child is innocent and my child is a little baby. They don't know anything. They know. Every single Disney, every single movie, every single TV show shows these garbage. Right? So it's important that we teach our kids what is the correct method. What is halal, what is haram. We should teach them. Don't wait for them to learn it in school. Rather, you should teach them what is halal, what is haram. That's your responsibility as parents. And then, of course, there's a lot to mention, but we'll stop here. Surah Al-Naml, Allah Ta'ala speaks about the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam. Such a beautiful story as well. Allah Ta'ala also mentions the story of Bilqis and the Queen of Saba, and how Sulaiman alayhi salam sent a letter and so on and so forth, and how she responds, and when she receives the letter, she says, إِنَّ الْمُلُوكَ إِذَا دَخَلُوا قَرْيَةً أَفْسَدُوهَا وَجَعَلُوا أَعِزَّةَ أَهْلِهَا أَذِلَّةً. I always mention this because it's such a powerful statement, that she says that, listen, when kings, when they come to a certain place, they destroy it, and they make the people who are honorable, they disgrace them. And this is how they do. Right? And this is how the tradition has been. That unfortunately, when conquerors, they come, they kill and slaughter and plunder. Unfortunately. Anyways, it's an amazing story of the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam, and how he hears the ants, and how the ant runs away, and the ant tells others. And because of that ant telling the other ants and warning the other ants, Allah Ta'ala names the surah Al-Naml. Such an amazing surah. Right? It's such an amazing surah that Allah Ta'ala names the surah after that ant because of the concern of that ant over the other ants. Right? The concern of that one ant, that listen, all of you should enter your homes. Sulaiman and his army should not trample over you. Right? So this is the concern of the ant. Now imagine if you and I were concerned about our Muslim brothers and sisters. Again, the fikr, that's very important. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had so much fikr. He had so much concern for all of humanity. We should also be concerned. People should not be dying as non-Muslims. It's our responsibility to give them da'wah. At the very least, do your job. At the very least, tell your co-workers and your friends and family and whoever else. Whoever you can invite towards Islam, invite them towards Islam. Don't be shy of your Islam. Don't be embarrassed about Islam. Be proud Muslims. Be proud Muslims. Right? And then propagate the religion. And make sure that everyone is aware. At the same time, same thing with Gaza as well. We should be proud to stand up for what is right. Speak up for what's right. And make sure that you're not silent when it comes to these types of issues. May Allah grant me, may Allah grant us all tawfiq and